any questions?
I just have one question, sir!
Shoot.
What's ancient Egypt?
Ah! Kill it! Kill it!
In the 2000s, studios realized that it was cheaper to put CGI movies on live animals instead of making animated movies. So there was a bunch of live-action movies with talking animals, and the special effects have aged just as gracefully as Spy Kids 3D. I went through my list of movies in the Bootleg collection and I saw that I have 7 of these movies. 7 doesn't even begin to scratch the surface. I remember other movies that came out like Underdog, Charlotte's Web, Stuart Little, Dr. Dolittle, Babe, and the Air Buddies franchise. But I don't have them on DVD, so they won't be in this video. Here are the 7 movies I'll be talking about. Let's get into it.
Oh, we did!
If we are, Buzz, we're in heaven! Woohoo! Bon appetito!
Ugh.
When I watched Racing Stripes, I had to click on a zebra's ass to play this movie. So at least the DVD menu tells you what kind of movie this is, which is a shame because the story actually had some potential. At its core, the movie is about a girl who wants to be a jockey, but nobody takes her seriously because she wants to race with her pet zebra. If the movie stuck with that premise and fleshed it out, it could have been decent. It would have been a nice, inspirational story for kids telling them to follow their dreams no matter what others think. But instead, the movie has stuff like this.
Don't shoot me! Don't shoot me! Well, Jersey flashback.
Ebony and ivory.
Live together in perfect harmony.
What do you know? Goose, who was really a pelican, is really a stool pigeon, who was actually a chicken that ducks. That makes 5 birds in one, count 'em.
Since the movie insisted on adding a bunch of unfunny gags with the animals, the story doesn't hold as much weight. How am I supposed to care if Hayden Panettiere and Stripes win the race or not? I barely know anything about Panettiere's character or any of the characters for that matter. I would have loved to see more of her relationship with her dad and see more of her relationship with Stripes. All I know is that she loves riding Stripes and she's mocked by her boss for having a pet zebra.
This is a racetrack, dear, not the Serengeti.
The movie seems like it wants to be a fun story about a girl learning how to ride a zebra, but then they keep cutting to scenes of animals talking and making dumb jokes. The movie doesn't even need to have talking animals, but the writers thought that they had to have talking animals because it's a kids movie and so they can pad the runtime. Out of all of the movies I watched for this video, Racing Stripes is the one where the animals didn't need to talk at all. It honestly would have been better without it. For example, when she takes Stripes to the racetrack, Stripes looks at the horses practicing on the track, but then it cuts to Stripes talking and it cuts to the flies. The scene would have been much better if he didn't talk and he was just looking at the horses. The shots already show to the audience that Stripes is curious about the horses running on the tracks. And then Panettiere notices him looking at the horses, so she sees that Stripes is interested in racing. We don't need to have scenes of Stripes telling us he wants to race. The editing already shows that he wants to race. Racing Stripes had the potential to be decent, and then it was ruined by the stupid talking animals gimmick. The movie wanted to follow the trend, and it couldn't even follow it in a decent way. I'm not mad that it ended up being terrible, I'm just disappointed. And I could have gone without a zebra's ass in my face.
Mice!
Son of my mom.
Out of all of the movies in this video, this is the one that I watched the most growing up. During one summer, I watched Cats and Dogs almost every night. And now that I've watched it again, honestly, a few parts of it still hold up.
What kind of stupid name did the biped saddle you with? Spot? Fifi? Rover?
Lou.
God forbid. Oh, Lou. Sorry.
Dogs being secret agents is a really fun concept, and I really like all the world building. Like how dogs run away from their owners because they've been reassigned, or how they use their dog houses as their bases. It reminds me of Perry the Platypus from Phineas and Ferb, but the movie is immediately dated because it's live action instead of being animated. There's so much CGI that it might as well be animated. The animals have to show a bunch of complex emotions like being angry, nervous, suspicious, or surprised. But obviously animals can't do that, so there's a bunch of CGI. Unless the animals are just sitting around, they're animated with CGI or with puppets. And in some parts, the movie didn't even bother animating the animals' mouths and eyes. So you end up noticing cuts with the animals just standing around confused.
Peek? I don't get it.
Stay away from the kid.
We're dogs. We're colorblind.
The movie even has scenes with CGI and they didn't even need to be, like in the opening scene when a newspaper lands in the yard. Since most of the movie is CG instead of animated, a lot of jokes just don't land, like when Buddy is chasing a cat and hits a glass door, or when Lou and Butch are riding to the agency headquarters and Lou's face is being pulled back from the speed. That's not nearly as funny, because the movie wants Lou to look somewhat realistic. If it was a cartoon, his expressions could have been more exaggerated and the joke would have been funnier. And in the fight scenes, if it was a cartoon, cartoon, the movie wouldn't have to worry about trying to have the dogs fight like they were real dogs. The dogs just look stiff when they could have been anthropomorphic like the cats they're fighting. The movie clearly wants to be a cartoon, so they should have gone all the way and had it be a cartoon. I watched Cats and Dogs so much as a kid for a reason. The story is fun and well paced, but it would have been more fun if they just let it be a cartoon. Cats and Dogs could have been like Phineas and Ferb but with secret agent dogs. And it has its moments, but it's not enough for me to overlook the terrible special effects.
Garfield, did you eat all 4 boxes of lasagna?
It's not my fault. They started it.
As far as comic strip adaptations go, I've seen worse.
Just word to the wise. Avoid the water bowls here.
Oh, come on!
Oh, I'll get to you in a bit. The Garfield movies just have nothing to them. The filmmakers just got Bill Murray to voice Garfield and they hoped that it would carry the movies, but they forgot to make them fun. For movies that are titled Garfield, the stories are barely even about Garfield. In the first movie, John keeps taking Garfield to the vet as an excuse to see Liz, who he has a crush on. And then John adopts Odie when he thought Liz was asking him out, but she was actually asking him to take Odie. Garfield even calls John out on this.
You went in there to get a date and came out with a dog? Oh, that's bad even for you. Oh, you're so sad.
And the second movie happens because John was planning to propose to Liz, but she needed to go to England for a business trip. So John decides to book a flight to England and propose to her there instead of just waiting until she gets back.
Run, bitch! Run!
And there's also a side plot of a guy trying to inherit a castle so he can turn the land into a resort. Why would kids care about a guy trying to propose and another guy trying to inherit a castle? As a kid, I didn't care about the adults. I just wanted to watch The Orange Cat. Although I disliked the movie's plots, I'm actually surprised how they were able to make the mouths not look creepy on the live animals like in Cats and Dogs.
If I ever get off this chain, you're going down.
He lets you vacation in this charming animal pound. Hello?
Rule number 1. The barnyard animals congregate entirely too close to the castle. We house pets need our space.
We must protect this cat at all costs. Our fates rely on it.
But Garfield himself is a different story. It's silly how the side characters look better than the star of these movies. None of the scenes with Garfield look good at all. The movie is trying to have a cartoon cat blend in with real life animals, so of course it's gonna look bad. I hate how the characters act like Garfield is a normal cat when he looks nothing like the other cats. Maybe the studio meant for Garfield to stand out as a joke, but I don't find that funny. I find it lazy. But overall, I find the Garfield movies to be just meh. They were enough to keep me entertained as a kid, but as an adult, there's just nothing for me to appreciate except for this one joke in the first movie.
That cat's puss is everywhere. TV, newspapers, t-shirts. Who would want that kind of exposure?
That is one hot dog.
Excuse me, ladies. Coming through. Nice legs.
Yep, not even Disney was immune to the talking animals trend. When I watched this, I honestly thought this was one of Disney's straight-to-video movies, but it was actually released in theaters on a $20 million budget. $20 million is cheap for a movie like this. To put that in perspective, Garfield 2 came out 2 years before it on a $60 million budget. So Disney really cheaped out, and it shows. The effects on the dog faces look so bad. Like in Cats and Dogs, the movie wants the dogs to show complex emotions like anger and happiness, but of course dogs aren't as expressive as humans. In the beginning of the movie, Chloe is out on a shopping spree and is supposed to be excited, but the dog just looks sad.
Hello, Jackie O.
In another scene, Chloe is supposed to be scaring the other dogs, but she just looks ridiculous.
So don't push me! Let's get
Sorry.
I know that the joke is that she's a Chihuahua, but she doesn't look pissed off. She just looks like a regular Chihuahua. And in another scene, there's a herd of Chihuahuas and they have CGI eyebrows to make them look angry, but they just look silly. Also, just like in Cats and Dogs, there are a bunch of shots of dogs just sitting around looking confused. But even if the special effects were decent, it doesn't fix the terrible voice acting. Drew Barrymore's performance as Chloe was my least favorite. Most of the time, her lines sound so wooden or like she's confused about what she's saying.
Mi corazón? What does that mean?
Are you kidding? I smell like a wet dog.
Drew Barrymore did have a few voice roles before this, like Jillian in Family Guy, so she can do a decent performance. But in this, she sounds like she wasn't given much direction. Neither does Andy Garcia for that matter. Garcia just sounds bored throughout the whole movie.
Okay, this is us. We're here. Shake your last booty and let's go. Don't turn around. Don't turn around. Don't. What am I doing?
I know that he's supposed to be a reluctant hero and sound annoyed, but he just sounds like he doesn't want to be there. This next part discusses animal abuse. If you're sensitive to this topic, you can skip ahead to this time. But out of all the things I dislike about this movie, the thing that bothers me the most is the movie's portrayal of dog fighting. In the movie, Chloe gets dognapped and put into a dog fighting ring. When she's told that she's in the dog fights, this music plays.
Where am I?
You're in the dog fights.
Dog fights? Oh, what? This is outrageous. I was born to shop, not fight.
This lighthearted music plays all throughout this scene and in the scene when Chloe is in the fighting ring. And a dog is praying throughout this scene because he's probably going to get killed when he fights. The music makes it seem like Chloe's situation is not that serious, even though as a small dog, she'll definitely die in the fighting ring. The dogs even say so in the movie.
Sounds like he's closing in.
Dog that size? Won't be much left of her.
Why would a family comedy reference dog fighting? How is dog fighting in any way funny? Dogs are bred, abused, and forced to fight each other to the death for money. And the dogs that do survive can have life-altering injuries and scars. Dog fighting is the reason that there's a huge stigma against pit bulls, because pit bulls are used for dog fighting. There are thousands of dogs sitting in shelters waiting to be adopted because their breeds are associated with dog fighting, and people assume that they're naturally aggressive because of that. Having a plotline about dog fights in a comedy movie makes it not seem as serious, especially with lighthearted music. Dog fights aren't funny. It's animal abuse. And the dog fighting is only a plot point in order to have a gang leader want to catch Chloe and hold her for ransom. The dog fights are never brought up again. What's the point of having it in the movie then? If you want to watch something that handles the topic better, I recommend watching the animated short Kit Bull. I've also left a link to a video by the ASPCA down in the description that goes more in depth about the subject. Even if the dogfight plotline is taken out, the movie is still a forgettable mess. I thought the movie was stupid as a kid, and I find it even dumber as an adult.
Speckles, you're a genius.
I'm a mole. I got a thing for worms.
Oh look, another spy movie, but with guinea pigs. Out of all of the movies in this video, G-Force had the highest budget at $150 million. And I'll give the movie credit, it actually does look good. The first Iron Man came out the year before, so CGI was starting to actually look great around this time. The CGI for G-Force actually looks great, and hasn't aged as badly as other movies in this video. The animals actually look like real animals, and they don't look rubbery. The spy gear and the evil machines also look good. They look like they're from Transformers. G-Force is fine when it comes to the visuals, but the story is pretty forgettable. The G-Force needs to stop an evil billionaire in order to prove themselves to the FBI. And the movie has a twist where the mole on the team turns out to be the real villain.
I can't believe the mole was the mole.
Get it? The mole turns out to be a mole. The twist was so obvious that I was able to figure it out as a kid. When I saw this in theaters, I was thinking, oh, Saber doesn't know what's happening. If I was able to call the twist as a kid, then the twist is too obvious. When Saber was asking why they were tracking space junk, I immediately figured out that he wasn't the real villain and he was going to be double-crossed. And the reveal of Speckles being the villain doesn't matter because he has a change of heart after a couple minutes.
I am the bad guy. Oh no, what have I done? What have I done?
The movie spent so much time foreshadowing Speckles being evil by having him tamper with evidence and having a tragic backstory, and then his revenge plan is dropped as soon as it's introduced. I know that G-Force has a silly concept, but that doesn't mean that they should have lazy writing. Along with the predictable plot, the music is predictable too. The majority of the songs were songs that were on the charts at the time the movie came out, and most of the songs were party songs. I Got a Feeling, Boom Boom Pow, Jump, etc. The Black Eyed Peas songs are especially dated. I remember getting sick of hearing both of their songs by the time the movie came out. And then the songs play multiple times throughout the movie. G-Force made me hate the Black Eyed Peas even more when I saw this in theaters. Adding current upbeat music to a movie doesn't make the movie any better. It actually has to fit the story you're trying to tell. Otherwise, it just makes the movie dated and forgettable. G-Force was fun to watch as a kid, but it wasn't as rewatchable as other movies I had on DVD. I figured out the twist when I saw it in theaters, so there was no reason to rewatch it. I also didn't like the music because it was being overplayed. The movie was nice to look at though. G-Force was a product of its time, and it needs to stay in 2009.
Wait for it. Wait for it.
Marmaduke, what did you eat? I know it's juvenile, but it's all I've got.
Last but not least, we have Marmaduke. Surprisingly, I haven't watched it until now. I was 13 when this came out, so I'd outgrown these types of movies by then. So it's just been sitting in this case until now, and it should have stayed in that case. This is offensive to my eyes. None of the animals look decent. They look like cheap rubber imitations of what animals should look like.
Hello, losers.
You played it cool, and I think I impressed a lot of dogs here today. Now that is a pretty good
We are not accessories.
Hey, man, in my country, I was a lawyer. I've been in this for so long, I can't feel my legs.
The faces look just as bad as Cats and Dogs came out 9 years before Marmaduke. And honestly, that's impressive. And if you're wondering what the movie's about, this is the story.
You want to fit in with the popular crowd? I do. Well, too bad. No!
If you've seen any high school drama, you've seen Marmaduke. And the human subplot is just a dad that learns to appreciate his family. Nothing about Marmaduke is original. They use all of the high school tropes and they don't do anything clever with them. It's just dogs having high school drama with a dad that realizes his family is more important than his job. And to top it off, there's a dance sequence in the end. Cause why the hell not? Marmaduke is the prime example of why I hate live-action talking animal movies. It's cheap, it's lazy, and worst of all, it's just boring. And for me, boring is the worst thing a movie can be. The 2000s was a dark time for kids' movies. Studios decided to cut costs and use live animals instead of making animated movies. And the quality of the movies suffered. The stories were predictable, the jokes were juvenile, the special effects felt like an afterthought, and the movies just weren't fun. They were all cheap messes that I forgot about after a couple years. And for me, they're better left forgotten. They were fine for their time, but it's best that they stay in their times. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like, it really does help me out. Also, let me know in the comments if any of you guys have seen any of these movies, or any other live-action animal movies. If you'd like to join me on my journey of watching all my bootleg DVDs, make sure to subscribe so you know when I upload a new episode. Now let's add these movies to the stack.